We don't have the luxury of another 5 years of the current trajectory. And for me, the greatest tragedy about all these ills that we face, an economy that we now see the Reserve Bank today, those of you who watched the announcement, have revised the growth to 0. Down 6 points to 0. Economic growth in South Africa, an economy that shed 15,000 formal sector jobs in the first quarter alone. 1 million jobs lost because President Jacob Zuma has his job. And we can't carry on like this. And the real tragedy is that these are self-inflicted wounds. It is a crisis of our own making. Now, Rob Davies and his fellow cohorts in the ANC will come to places and think they're very clever, and they'll say to you, well, you know, the reason our economy is not growing, the reason that we are struggling, the reason why people are out of work is what they call the global headwinds. Commodity slowdown in China, subprime market crash in the United States, anxiety over the future of Europe. And these do play some role in global affairs. But what it doesn't explain away is why economies in our own neighborhood in SADC and on our own continent are growing at rates double and treble ours. Their people are working, their policies are working, the economies are moving forward and creating work. And yet they face the same challenges that we face. It doesn't explain away why we've gone from being the largest single economy on the African continent to being third behind now Nigeria and Egypt. It's poor policies, it's poor decision making, it's poor appointments and poor execution and no consequences that have got us into this crisis. We need change in South Africa. We need change now. And we're not going to get it. And the IMF were here earlier this week in South Africa. And what they had to say was quite interesting, but not new. The Democratic Alliance has been saying exactly what the IMF have highlighted for the last 5 years. Inflexible labour market needs to change. We need consequences. We need to fight against corruption. We're a rein in spending. Too much fruitless and wasteful expenditure in municipalities and governments around the country. A very, very bleak picture indeed. And it's not helped by what I like to call the African National Confusion, ANC. So you've got Rob Davies who comes and talks about the NGP, the New Growth Path. You've got Ramaphosa talking about the NDP, the National Development Plan. You've got Ibrahim Patel talking about IPAP, Industrial Policy Action Plan. None of these plans actually work together at all. One would think that in a cabinet of 75 people, you'd find some commonality. Instead, they spend their time fighting like a bunch of cats in a sack over who's going to get the economy direction. This confusion is hard enough for us to understand. Can you imagine what a minefield it is for an international investor who's looking to establish a factory, inject capital, or make a major investment in our country? It's not helped as well by Pravin Gordhan going to the sort of forums of the world, Davos, and saying, South Africa is open for business, bring your investment, we want it here, we want the jobs. And then we pass laws in Parliament like the Expropriation Bill and the Promotion and Protection of Investment Bill, which are the biggest deterrents to anybody wanting to bring a capital investment into South Africa, to set up factories and to start creating jobs so we can absorb the 8.9 million largely unskilled, unemployed people that we have in South Africa. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing from one day to the next. It's like a drunk teenager in mom's car on a Saturday night, swerving from one side of the road to the other. We need certainty in South Africa. We need change in South Africa. We need it now.